Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur.
On the podcast with us today, we have Allie LeFevere. She works to help companies create fun, exciting, and effective marketing strategies. She also is the host of a Harry Potter-themed comedy podcast. So, Allie, thank you for being with us. I'm really looking forward to talking with you today. Just from reading a little bit about you, it sounds like we're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Allie, I want you to share with us a little bit about what your current focus is right now as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so for the past 2 years, I have been running a humor marketing agency. So we essentially work with brands and businesses to infuse humor into their branding and their messaging strategy and their design to help create a more compelling message for their various products and services. So we've been doing that. And then, like Danae said, that I also have a fun side project where I host a comedy podcast with my business partner and another friend. And it is an erotic Harry Potter comedy podcast.
Sounds interesting. Well, I'll definitely have to look that up. I like a good laugh. So we like to talk about two different types of tough decisions. Let's first start off with the tough decision that you have had as an entrepreneur that did not have that good of an outcome. You made the decision and then afterwards it just didn't turn out the way you expected. I like to call it kind of like the sore thumb tough decision, and talk about that and then some of the lessons maybe that you learned through that tough decision.
Yeah, I think one that I was actually thinking about this, and I reflect back on the kind of various times in my life throughout my career and kind of the pivots I made and did they work well, did they not? So one that I am reflecting back and thinking, oh, that was a tough decision and it didn't maybe work in the direction I thought it would, is I've been self-employed for quite a long time. So previous to this agency, I created programming and curriculum for businesses and individuals around marketing and branding, et cetera. And there was a brief period of time where I went into business with a person I didn't know that well, but I really liked. And we had a lot of fun together and we got along very well. Because I was kind of tired of working as a solo leader of a company, I did have some support staff. I was tired of making all the decisions or kind of carrying the weight by myself, that I thought it would be really fun to be in business with someone, and did not really vet the individual as a business owner. Loved her as a person, but really didn't take the time to say, hey, would we be effective in terms of working together? Or would we partner together in a way that would make sense and complement our skill sets? Do we have a foundation of trust built up? Are we both working toward the same goals? And so that worked, quote unquote, for about maybe 3 to 4 months effectively. And then when things started to get hard and we were working long hours and we had a big client load, you started to realize that we didn't maybe have the same goals in mind, or we didn't have the same kind of working style. And so I ended up ending that, and unfortunately ended it in a way that dissolved not only our business, but our friendship. Not to get too tough with you guys, but it was a really sad experience for me. I'd never been in a position where I felt like I misjudged or misread a situation so bad. And I also was mad at myself because I thought that this would make things easier, and it made things more frustrating and more difficult. And so I really started to misjudge my own like gut instincts and my own ability to read someone. And it was a bit of a dark time for a good 6 to 9 months after that situation. So that was a situation that didn't work out so hot.
So kind of dive into that a little bit, because I know we've had a few other people that have talked about similar things like this, but I really want to understand from your headspace and your mind space now, looking back at that situation, is there anything that you could have done differently that might have helped to make that work longer term, or make it actually work in towards the future? Was it you? Was it the other person? Was it the situation? Was it the business? Was it just not a good fit? What were some of the things that looking back you see was, some of the lessons that you learned through that tough decision?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would have done is I would have done a project with this individual first, something that had low stakes, something that, if it didn't work, it wouldn't have impacted our lives
So starting with like a smaller project or something.
A small little insignificant thing, just to see how we work together, just to see what our propensity is to take on work. Where does our skill set fully lie? I think we were drawn to each other's enthusiasm and excitement, and as opposed to our complementary skill set, as opposed to just our depth of partnership. And so I think I would have sussed it out in something just there wasn't a lot of stake in the game. So I think those same issues would have come to the surface in a situation that wasn't as big of a deal or wouldn't have had so much time, energy, and money invested.
How long did you know this person before you started to do business with them like this?
About 1.5 years.
So you felt like you knew them pretty well.
Yeah, I did. I really did. And I guess that was what was a bit surprising, is that I knew this person really well from a friendship perspective and really had just the most admiration for this friendship, but I never knew her as a business partner. And I think that was the difference, recognizing very quickly that I was carrying a big chunk of the burden in terms of, or I didn't call it burden, but just a lot of the workload, was probably doing about 80% of all the things that were needed to be done. And a lot of that was managing our team. A lot of that was doing the creative work. A lot of that was business relationships. And she was more in it for just the fun piece, the like wanting to say she was a business owner, wanting to, do interviews and just kind of the fun things that were kind of the added benefit of running a business, as opposed to the behind the scenes, the things that don't have flash or glory, the things that keep you up till 2 a.m. working on a client project sometimes. And I think those are things that I didn't know until we were in it.
So before you went into business with this person, did you sit down and, kind of write out and delineate the different duties and have like a clear understanding of what each person was going to be doing? Or was it kind of like, let's just jump in and get started? And then that's kind of when it started to fall apart, when there was this imbalance in the duties and the responsibilities?
I'll be completely honest in saying that I don't think I did a great job of adding more structure and boundaries to who did what, because at first we were in this like ideation creation phase. And so we were both really involved and invested, and we were spending time thinking through ideas and what are all the things we need to run an effective business. I think what happened is then when it came time to implement and when it came time to manage people and it came time to actually do the work, that's when the lines became blurry. And to take ownership of my side of it, I have a propensity to just say, oh, I'll do it. I really believe in doing a really good job for people. So sometimes she'd be like, oh, I'll write that. And it would like be 5 minutes later, she'd send me back an email that she wrote. And it would be like, didn't make any effort, or it was like, I felt like things were getting punted back to me because she knew that I would take the time. And so I would kind of say, hey, can we do this again? And here's some of the things that we should probably talk about in this email. And here are ways that we can maybe make it better. And she was always really receptive, but I think it was a matter of me recognizing that, and as I say this out loud, I think I don't mean to come off like, a control freak at all. It was more that I think that when things are client facing, you take the time to do an A+ job. And I think it really matters. And every touch point is so invaluable to a client. And I think that sometimes those things aren't always fun. And so what I just found is when it wasn't fun, it wasn't worth doing. And I just have a mindset that I have a lot of fun when people are really happy when they work with me. And so it doesn't always have to be fun in the moment, but I really care about the kind of the end result. And by no means am I blaming her. I think I take responsibility for the fact that I didn't speak up for a long time. And I kind of just tried to grind it out. And that just wasn't effective. And that was my lesson of like, it's tough to have a conversation, but ultimately it's worse to feel a certain way behind someone's back and be frustrated and not be communicative about that. So when we finally did have the conversation, it was a lot heavier than it had to be because it could have maybe been addressed more explicitly along the way.
I want to ask you one more thing before we move on, because we don't want to spend the whole time on it.
Yeah.
But as Dan said, we've talked to several entrepreneurs that had a similar situation, not exactly, of course, but similar. But I've never heard any of them say what you said, in that coming out of that, you started to second guess your intuition. And as we've discussed before as well, intuition is a really important part of the way I think entrepreneurs tend to make decisions. So I'm just wondering, how long did you really feel like it took you to get that confidence back? And was there something that happened, or you just sort of had to move on mentally and trust that again? How did you work through that?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of self-reflection during that time. And something that means a lot to me is integrity. And so I spent a lot of time really checking in, did everything I did when that situation was dissolving and after align with my integrity. And that was kind of where I started, is that, can I trust myself to have made the best, healthiest choice in how I reacted, how I interacted, how I moved forward. And so I started there because it was hard to just move forward with a skip in my step because it was a heavy situation. After that, I spent time working a bit solo, in a sense that I was just me and 2 other team members. I was very fortunate that when that situation dissolved, that they wanted to still work by my side, and they were wonderful and lovely. So I did feel like I had at least a third party that was reminding me that, hey, you did the right thing. So that, to be honest, that helped with my ego quite a bit. And it just helped remind me that, hey, it's okay. Like, stuff happens and you have to move forward. But I did work a bit in solitude, in a sense that I was kind of the one driving the ship, because I wanted to kind of get back to a place where I felt comfortable and refamiliarize myself with the way I do business, the way that I work with clients, the way that I build relationships. And I think that helped. I think it helped, as opposed to throwing myself into another situation or just pretending it wasn't painful, or just trying to work with a million people and not take the time I needed to really be comfortable and trust myself as a business owner again. And as I reflected back in that whole situation, there were red flags, very small, minor ones, but ones that maybe I should have paid more attention to. But I just trusted in our friendship in so much that I didn't kind of anticipate that it would go down that road. And so I think I kept the blinders on a little bit, that, oh, this won't happen because there's no way that I trust this person implicitly. I can't imagine that this taking a left turn. So yeah, it was a bit of a reevaluation period, which was probably a good, I would say, 9 months of being kind of on my own with just a couple team members, for sure.
I want to shift to a different tough decision here, Allie, and talk about one that had a really good and positive outcome, or a better one than you had expected, and some of the lessons you learned through that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because it's the other side of the coin, which is why I picked that tough decision, because 2 years ago, I started my current company with my best friend. And this is after kind of the demise of my first partnership. So I did take time in between those 2 situations because I didn't want to be soured to the opportunity to partner with someone and do something really incredible. And so this person has been my best friend for many years, and we were always in similar businesses. So I was in more of the brand strategy, the marketing. I was overseeing teams on creative projects, and she was doing comedy and copywriting. So we were always kind of talking back and forth about our various projects and cool client work we were up to. And sometimes we'd kind of mess around and help each other out with ideation. And because we were both in the business of using humor, leveraging humor and fun to create some really cool marketing campaigns, and working with really fun clients to help shape their brand in a way that was interesting and different and fun and compelling. And so we kind of toyed around the idea it'd be really fun to partner. So we did something a little different. We first partnered on a fun charitable project. So not to get political, but after the election, we were a little bummed out that some causes that were near and dear to our heart were in jeopardy. And so we decided to create a product that was funny in nature. And we sold it. We sold a funny mug that had a funny saying on it. And just as friends. And we donated profits to the charity, our charity of choice. And when we partnered on the project, we ended up selling hundreds of these mugs, which was way more than we anticipated. And every step of the process, from the creation and ideation to the selling to the execution and actually shipping these mugs out, because we had to ship out hundreds of mugs, from my spare bedroom, packaging them and putting labels on, etc., was flawless. And we had fun together, and we laughed together, and we worked really well together. And there was just such a willingness for both of us to kind of split all the work. And we have really, really good complementary skill sets. And so we're like, wow, that was really fun. from there, we're sitting around my kitchen table and we came up with the idea for our podcast. And it was just a funny concept. We thought, hey, this would be really silly and weird, and would people listen? And so we we figured, what the hell? Let's try it. We'll do 3 episodes. If people are interested, we'll keep going. If not, what is it? A little bit of time, energy, and dollars, and it's a fun concept. So we partnered on that, and 3 episodes has turned into almost 90 episodes. But when we started that project, again, working really flawlessly together, having a lot of fun, our skill sets complementing each other. So it wasn't until 6 months into that we decided to start our agency. Once we realized that we understood not only how we worked just kind of on loosey-goosey fun projects, but when we were up late recording and when we were having to create graphics for our social media account for this silly podcast we did, and we were willing to both work hard, and we were so helpful and supportive of each other, we just realized in that moment that, wow, we could really work together and it be just a really strong complementary partnership. And so we started our agency, and it's been 2 years now, and it's been, I hate to jinx us, but it's felt almost flawless in terms of a partnership. And we've had tough moments. We've had moments where we're overwhelmed, where we have a huge client load and we have a ton of deadlines. And I'm so grateful is that in every one of those moments, I feel like we've always risen to meet each other and really honor and respect each other. And it's been awesome. It's been great. And we still are best friends, and we still talk 100 times a day, and we still hang out on the weekends because we like being around each other that much. So yeah, it's really good.
So what would you say is the key to the success of that partnership versus the one you had before? Or do you not really know?
Well, first of all, I think it's setting healthy guidelines, boundaries, setting expectations, having those uncomfortable conversations up front. And they don't have to be negative or heavy, but just saying, what do we both want? Like, what are we both driven by? What are we both excited by? So I think part of it is recognizing Lindsay and I, who's my partner, we're both driven by and excited by different things. So we always keep that in mind when we do work together, is that there are certain things that light her up and certain things that light me up. And so we both lean into those spaces more. And then we overlap in a lot of other ways in our business. I like team management a little bit more. I like building relationships with our clients. I like jumping on the phone and I can shoot the shit with someone for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And I love that. Where she's more introverted and she's a little bit more behind the scenes, ideating and creating. And we really honor and respect that in each other. So that's, I think, one thing. And I think the second thing is that we treat each other like a marriage. And I think any good marriage is this idea that I love you no matter what. I love you unconditionally, and really, really abiding by that. It doesn't mean you have to stay with someone forever, but it's that I'm always going to trust and believe in the best of you, so that anytime we have a tough conversation or anytime that something goes awry, that when we come to this dialogue, we really believe in the best of each other, and we're not going to abandon each other when it gets rough. So I joke around that my childhood best friend, who's not Lindsay, but someone else, we when we were in 6th grade, we made a promise that we would never break up. And so I kind of brought that funny thing up to Lindsay, and we made that commitment that, like, we're not going to break up. We're in it for the long haul. And when you're in it for the long haul with someone, you can have difficult moments, and they create even better, more amazing, fun moments, because you just really like each other and trust each other, and you're in it kind of to win it. And it's fun because we're a creative agency. We're a humor-centric agency. So 90% of what we do is fun and hilarious and wild and crazy. And I get to do it with my best friend and an amazing team and cool-ass clients. And yeah, it's wonderful.
So would you say that your partner in this is the introvert and you're the extrovert?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I actually heard this recently, that is one of the best dynamics to have in a partnership, is somebody who can balance the other partner out by having an introvert and an extrovert, because extroverts always need an introvert to be able to handle things that the extrovert doesn't want to handle. And then the introvert always wants to have somebody like an extrovert so that they can help handle the frontline stuff that they don't want to have to handle. And so you found a great, perfect balance. I think that's really what's the winning thing with that relationship, like you had stated.
Oh, I 100% agree. It's like a running joke with us because she presents as an extrovert. Like people meet her and they think she's so goofy and fun and friendly. But the joke is that if you want to get a hold of us, call me and tweet at her. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, Dan gets mad at me all the time because I don't answer my phone. If I don't know who it is, I'm not answering.
And I would just pick up the phone and talk for an hour.
Exactly. So, Allie, what have you learned about your strategy for making tough decisions? You've been an entrepreneur for a while now. And so what kind of strategy do you use whenever you're facing a really difficult decision?
Well, there's probably 3 things, depending on what those things are. So one that is not really what we talked about, but whenever I'm faced with a pivot in our business or something in our business or just in life in general, where I feel like I'm up against information that I don't know, or I want to create or implement something and I'm not really sure how to do it, or I feel like there's technologies or systems I don't understand, I always remind myself, it's not can I do it, but it's how can I do it? Because what I think the first does is it really makes you think, me being able to do this in this moment is really incumbent upon my internal skill set or my self-esteem, where how can I do it means I don't have to know how to do it right in this moment, but I can ask better questions. I can find the right people. I can teach myself. And so I actually have that written on this thing in our bedroom where it's just like my reminder to myself is like, I think it leaves me open to possibility and opportunity that there is a way to solve this problem. I just haven't figured it out yet. So that's kind of one when I'm faced with that type of tough decision. The second and third kind of play hand in hand. I think I try to go into every discussion or situation being 100% responsible for, at a minimum, the energy I bring to the situation, and who am I showing up as? What skills am I bringing? What energy am I bringing? How can I make the situation better? What could I have said or done to improve it? So I always try to engage in any situation in a way that I, at a minimum, can be responsible for how I bring myself to it, which I always think it just makes for a better relationship is when I'm not in a position to blame someone else, to push my expectations on someone else, is that if I am responsible for what I bring to the table, then I think that opens up a dialogue and an opportunity for someone else to be responsible for what they bring to the table. And then the third thing is I am very fortunate that I came from this sassy, outspoken Italian family where we have hard conversations and we're very transparent, and we also are not grudge holders. So for better or worse, I'm very comfortable, for the most part, having difficult dialogues and recognizing they don't have to go past the conversation. So we can hash it out, we can be frustrated, we can say things that are uncomfortable, and then we can leave it on the dance floor. Like, it doesn't have to go into the next room. It doesn't have to go into the next day. And I think that that's something that has really been helpful, is that recognizing like you can be uncomfortable and it doesn't have to carry forward as long as things are resolved. So yeah, those are probably the 3 that I think have been really instrumental.
All right, we're going to take a quick break to hear from some of our show sponsors. When we come back, we will talk to Allie about some of her favorites as it relates to business.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. All right, we are back, and we're going to be talking about the trifecta, which is a series of questions that we're going to be asking Allie. And first one is, what is your favorite technology that you use in business every day to make your life easier?
Ooh, only one? Oh yeah, I'm such a nerd. I love this stuff. So I'm going to break the rules, and I'm going to give you 2. The first is we use 17 Hats for our client management. We run all of our quotes and invoices and questionnaires and all of our lead gen. Everything goes through 17 Hats. I really like it. There are some limitations to the system. I think it can be a little out of the box. It doesn't leave a ton of room for customization, but it does everything we need, and it's been pretty flawless since we instrumented it. So that I love. And then we use Slack as a communication tool, and we do all our ideation in there. We have different Slack channels to ideate client projects and ideate, internal projects and different elements of our business. And it keeps all of our ideas organized and structured, and they're easy to find and go back to. So I could keep going, but those are the two that I love the most currently.
What's your favorite quote that you've heard that's helped you as an entrepreneur?
That's a really good one. I think something that I believe about life, and I think it has impacted my business, but it's not really specific to business, is don't be someone that dies in pieces. I've always collected quotes since I was a kid. I used to keep a notebook when I was in junior high, like an angsty teen, and write all these inspirational quotes in it. But I love that one because I think it reminds you just the idea of don't be the person that dies in pieces, meaning all is to really be conscious and mindful of all the various parts of who you are and always giving them time and attention and love and care, because it's so easy to get swept up by life and things you have to do and people you have to be and projects you're engaged with. And it's easy to let those things steal parts of who you are and drain parts of who you are. So I think that that's just a really smart reminder that not everything's going to feel easy all the time and not everything's going to feel fun all the time, but it should, for the most part, it should energize you and excite you and light you up. I mean, I can say that my business 95% of the time, I love every piece of it. And I don't want to ever feel like things I do in my life are a chore, whether that is my business or my relationships or hobbies I'm engaged with. So I really like that one.
What's a favorite book that you've read that's helped you make better decisions or be a better business owner?
Yeah, I think the best book I've ever read in life in general, aside from Harry Potter, is a book by Byron Katie. It's called Loving What Is. I've read it multiple times. It has changed the way I approach situations. It has changed the way I feel on a daily basis. I'm naturally a pretty happy, optimistic gal, but that is really change my perspective, is that whenever I'm faced with something where I feel uncomfortable, I always step back and say that am I living in expectations or shoulds, or am I living in the reality of what I'm experiencing in front of me? And when I can step further into that reality, all those funky feelings, they dissipate. So that has been, that's my favorite book ever.
So Allie, right now, what is the next thing for you on your vision or dream board as we wrap this up?
Yeah, well, something really fun and exciting that we just rolled out is for the last 2 years, we have been doing humor-centric messaging and strategy for businesses. So we've worked with some really cool clients, from Chick-fil-A, Dallas Cowboys, down to really cool startups. And what we were experiencing for so long is that sometimes we would hand over these really fun messaging concepts and they would land in really bad design. So we decided to bring on 2 humor-centric designers onto our team. And so we just rolled that out about a month and a half ago. And so we're now doing humor-centric design to complement our messaging. And that is just so fun because we get to see a lot more of our projects come to fruition, and we get to see them come out into the world in just a really fun, cool, different, unique ways. And so that's been a big project. That's been a fun project. And aside from that, I'm going to Toronto for the first time in a couple weeks, and I'm excited. It's a little trip my husband and I are taking. So that's another thing I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Well, Allie, how can the listeners reach out to you if they want to continue to follow you or get a hold of you after they listen to this episode?
Yeah, well, my company is Obedient Agency, so you can find us there. And then my website's allielefevere.com, but you're probably going to end up reaching me through Obedient anyway. But yeah, if you want to see dog videos and I don't know, silly posts, then you can follow me on Instagram. I don't know why anyone does, but people apparently do. Allie LeFevere.
Awesome. Well, Allie, thank you so much for your energy on this interview and a lot of the lessons that the listeners can learn from. And look forward to having you on a future podcast as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. You guys are both wonderful. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.